movie lovers, Iris is here, welcome back to my channel, and today I would like to talk about my top 10 most favorite romantic films of all time. This list contains some classic romantic comedies, some dramas of course, and just in general films that can make you fall in love with love. So let's start, shall we? Okay, so I'm not going to rate those films, I'm going to mention them in no particular order, and we're going to start with When Harry Met Sally. I mean, the love that I have for this film is insane. Like, it's my ultimate autumn film, it's my ultimate Christmas film. I can watch it anytime and it just sets the atmosphere perfectly. Like, it's an amazing example of a romantic comedy, and Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, who play the main roles, the main parts in this film, I think they have done an amazing job. Like, the chemistry between their characters is absolutely undeniable, and this film has so many legendary moments. I mean, that diner scene itself is probably one of my favorite scenes just in general from like in movie history. I think it's absolutely iconic, and this film also has very witty dialogues and it's very heartwarming. I love how it ends because I think this film makes you believe in love, and that's why I love it so much. So now I would like to talk about a film that's in my top 4 most favorite films of all time, and I'm talking about Amelie. Amelie has a very special place in my heart. Like, again, I have rewatched it so many times. I definitely can't count them on palms of my hands, like way too many times. I think I know this film by heart by now, and that film I think resonates with me very deeply. Like, I resonate with the character of the way she is, who she is, and how she sees the world. So that's basically about a girl, her name is Amelie, and she tries to spread joy in the world around her. She tries to help people around her to find their like happily ever afters, or just, you know, just happiness in their everyday lives. But she forgets about herself. Like, she does so many things for others that she forgets about herself and about her own life. But she is, I think, a hopeless romantic. That's why I resonate with her so much. She is a hopeless romantic, and she really believes in love, and she's looking for love. And that film, it shows us that sometimes we can find love in a very unexpected places. And of course, this film is about like Paris. We can see a very beautiful time, a very beautiful period, I think, of a Parisian life, and it's very beautiful and it's very charming. And I love that this film is very creative and very innovative in the way how it tells its story. So I praise this film. Like, I love it so much. It's so dear to me. It has a very special place in my heart, and if you have never seen it, please do, because this film is worth watching absolutely, because of like I think the character of Amelie, who was portrayed by Audrey Tautou. She is an incredible actress. So yeah, watch Amelie, because it's definitely one of my favorite films of all time, but it is probably one of the greatest romantic, let's say, fairy tales of all time as well. So while making this list, I was thinking about including 2 films with Nicolas Cage. First was Wild at Heart. It's definitely a very unique, very outrageous love story, which I really love. But then I thought about Moonstruck, because Moonstruck is an iconic film, and I think that not so many people have seen it, and it's definitely one of the kind. I mean, this film received quite a few awards at the Oscars in 1988, including the award for Best Actress for Cher, who plays a widow in this film, and she falls in love with her fiance's brother, who is played by Nicolas Cage. So it's definitely not your usual romantic movie, I think. It's definitely filled with wit, warmth, and some unpredictable moments. We have amazing supporting cast. Like, I loved every character in this film, And this film definitely reminds you that love can be very messy, it can be very complicated, and it can be, filled with a little bit of magic sometimes. And I mean, the chemistry again between Cher and Nicolas Cage, I think, is very strong, very powerful, and very passionate. And that's why I really love this film, and I have decided to include it today. And I really encourage you watching it if you have never seen it. So now I would like to mention Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, because I love that film for pretty much everything. Like, I love that film for the way it was shot, because I absolutely love the cinematography in this film. I think it's a sensational work. It's definitely very creative and innovative. I love it for its soundtrack. I mean, Beck's cover of Everybody's Gotta Learn Sometime, probably one of my favorite songs. I love it for how it was written, because it was written by Charlie Kaufman, and I think he's a genius. And obviously I love it for the performances that this film gave us. I mean, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, the chemistry between their characters again was absolutely undeniable. It was very strong and very powerful, and I loved it. I also loved supporting performances, because we have Kristen Dunst, we have Elijah Wood, we have Mark Ruffalo, and they all play a very important part in the whole story. Like, they have their own storylines, but at the same time they also are very important characters for the whole story. So basically that story is about a couple that undergoes a procedure to erase each other from their memories, which just like the idea sounds absolutely marvelous, I think, and it's so interesting. Personally, for me, it's very interesting idea. And basically that film kind of asks the question, what would happen if that couple, if these two people realized that they still love each other? And I think that I would like to mention a quote from another film, which is called Nostalgia by Andrei Tarkovsky. So it's basically like a story about a writer who struggles. He has, like, let's say, a depression, and he has a very, very difficult time in his life. And there is a quote, there is a line that his character says, unspoken feelings are unforgettable. And I think that this quote really resonates with the topic of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and that's exactly what I like it for. So next I would like to talk about Punch Drunk Love, a surreal and often unpredictable romantic drama by Paul Thomas Anderson, who I absolutely adore as a director. So that film follows Barry Egan, who is played by Adam Sandler, and I would like to mention that this film gave us probably one of the most interesting and extraordinary performances from Adam Sandler. And basically his character Barry Egan, he has problems with controlling his emotions, and he falls in love with a mysterious Lena, who is played by Emily Watson. So basically what this story is a story about an unconventional love. It is a story about love that sometimes comes with a little bit of chaos. So if you have never seen it, or if you would like to watch more Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, then I highly recommend you watching it. I have decided to include it because, yes, ultimately it's probably one of my favorite films of this director, and I think it is a great example of a different kind of love, because love is different for everyone, and this film definitely proves it. Another film that I really encourage you watching if you haven't seen it is Only Lovers Left Alive by probably one of my favorite directors, Jim Jarmusch. It is definitely a very unique and very hypnotic love story, because it is a story of it is a love story of two vampires, Adam and Eve, which is ironic. I mean, their names are ironic. So it's the story of love between immortal creatures that have spent centuries together, and navigating both like beauty and darkness of their existence. It is definitely an unconventional love story, and because it's Jim Jarmusch, Jim Jarmusch, that's exactly why I love him as a director. He focuses more on the atmosphere rather than on the plot itself. That's exactly why I love this film, because it builds up this incredible, one more time, hypnotic atmosphere of this love. It's definitely a slow burn type of love, and it just, it keeps you from the start till finish. And even after finishing watching this film, I think this atmosphere like stays with you for some time, probably due to incredible immersive soundtrack, because soundtrack itself, like, you can listen to it and it's kind of like, how to say it, like it's a ritual, it's like a kind of a ritual that you like undergo while watching this film. And obviously two main characters were played by Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston, who I both really like as actors. Tilda Swinton is one of my favorite actresses, and they definitely, I think, they had amazing chemistry. One more time, yes, absolutely phenomenal chemistry. But also I think that they were suited for those roles so perfectly. Like, I can't imagine anyone else playing those parts. So one more time, yes, it is an unconventional love story, and I really encourage you watching it, because I think it shows a very interesting and very unusual type of love. So next I would like to talk about In the Mood for Love, a masterful film by Wong Kar-wai. It's so beautifully shot, and I think it has been an inspiration for so many other creators. For instance, in Everything Everywhere All at Once, we definitely can see that directors were inspired by that particular film in some of the scenes. And it's the story of two neighbors who suspect their other halves of having an affair. And what follows is a very exquisite and very delicate portrayal of longing, of restraint, and a love in the world of unspoken desires. So I think that it's a very peculiar love story. It's definitely a very interesting one, and obviously it's kind of dramatic. And what I love this film for is the fact that it focuses on atmosphere very intensely, and this atmosphere, like those feelings, that the vibe that this film gives to you, well, it definitely lingers with you long after its credits. And if you have never seen it, I really encourage you doing so, because it is an absolute classic, and I think that it's definitely one of the kind. Another film that has a very special place in my heart is Sing Street, which is set in 1980s Dublin. It's definitely a very delightful and very heartfelt movie. It is the coming-of-age musical about a boy who falls in love with a girl, and to impress her, he decides to form a band, a music band. And it's definitely a story of a boy who has his trials and tribulations during his life, and specifically in this moment of time where we see his character. And it's definitely the story of this young love. Like, it reminds you of that young love and how pure it is, I think. And also this film has, I think, a very beautiful message of finding yourself through love and through art, because naturally he would like to be a musician, he would like to be like a singer. And I love that film for the atmosphere that it builds, and I love this film for soundtrack because it is a musical, and I think it's a very interesting and very wonderful example of musicals. It's definitely very fun to watch, and sometimes it's, I think, a very even sad. I felt sad while watching it film a couple of times, and I definitely felt very happy at the end. Together with the main characters, I kind of felt that now everything is right, although there is the ending is very clear, but at the same time I think that it leaves you with this hope. I think like all young people feel, they feel this hope, but they don't really know what's coming next, you know. So yeah, it's definitely a very beautiful film, and again, like the idea that this film shows us is that it's possible to find yourself through art and through love if you are very open and if you are very, you know, if you are staying true to yourself. Of course, I couldn't not to mention Lost in Translation, because I love this film so dearly. It was directed by Sofia Coppola and it stars Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. They portray characters like two lonely strangers who are forced to spend time in a hotel in Tokyo, and they together develop this special bond. So it's basically the story of this, you know, kind of like intimacy, and it explores this idea of isolation, and the chemistry between Johansson and Murray is absolutely like, it's so electric and it's so strong. That's probably one of the reasons why I love this film so much. And another reason, of course, is being the atmosphere that this film was able to build. I think it stays with you like for a couple of days after you have finished watching this film. Like, I think it like leaves this kind of, let's say, like a trail, or just, you know, that vibe that you catch in this film. Because again, this film is not about the plot, like nothing really happens in this film, but it's about this atmosphere, and this is definitely not your ordinary love story. Like, it's a very peculiar, very interesting and a very unusual, I think, love story, which proves again that love is different, and that's why I love this film, and that's why I have decided to include it today. Next, I would like to talk about 10 Things About You, and that's my comfort film. Like, the amount of times I have rewatched it is a very high number, and I think I can say it about all of the films in today's top, because I have rewatched all of them quite a few times. And with 10 Things About You, yes, it's a teen classic, romantic comedy, which is actually based on Shakespeare classic play. If you haven't read it, I really recommend you reading it as well and then watching a film, because it's like, it's so bizarre how the same kind of story is set in modern-ish world. And of course, this film gave us Heath Ledger in his probably most charming role, and Julia Stiles as well. Like, the chemistry that they've had on the screen was again absolutely undeniable, and it was so strong and powerful. And the poem, I mean, this poem is probably everything. It's why we love this film so much. And I guess that we all have been kind of dreaming about having a love like that, watching, you know, so many films in this genre, and this film gave it to us. That's why I love to rewatch it sometimes, to remind myself of that feelings that I have been looking for in the past. So yeah, it's an amazing film and I love it so much. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite romantic movie? Have you seen any of the ones that I have mentioned today? And don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you again very, very soon in my next video.